Alright guys, so today we got a Kenworth T880 and it's in level 1 derate, or intermittently into level 1 derate, and we've actually identified a bad harness. So I'll just run through this real quick for you guys. Our EGR valve has a 5-volt supply. This right here is our differential pressure sensor for the EGR valve. It also has, or supposed to have, 5-volt supply. This speed sensor here, right here, is also teed into a 5-volt supply. Okay, so turns out we don't have our 5-volt supply anywhere at these sensors. There's also the intake throttle valve that doesn't have its 5-volt supply either. So we ran through all the wires. We actually identified that we have a bad harness, bad engine harness. We priced it out at about 1,800 bucks Canadian, and the customer advised against this. He wants me to run an overlay from the ECM to all of these sensors. So what we got to do, we have two things we have to do today. We have to run this new overlay harness, and when I was here last time, this turbocharger actuator wasn't working. It wasn't even coming online. I actually didn't hear, can you hear the little conniption it's having? It's trying to do something. It's like the gear inside is seized up and it doesn't like it. It was actually completely offline last time. We didn't have communication coming back from this thing, and it seems like it's accepting some sort of messages now because it's trying to swash the VG actuator. This is real crusty. We're gonna have to treat these a little bit first. Oh. So we have an actuator on the way. Should be showing up sometime today. And yeah, should be really simple. We're gonna have to drain the coolant to get this out. There's a lot of videos on how to change these. Rozzy's videos are A1, top notch.
But before we can show you today's work, we need to rewind a little bit back to the beginning and show you how we came to this conclusion. After all, we don't just change parts for no reason. So buckle up, boys. We're about to take a ride on the diagnostic train. All right, so this is us back at day one, and we're trying to confirm this customer's complaint. So we're going to have to take a moment here and really take in all of these faults. I'd like to add we have a lot of inactive fault codes with a high number of occurrence counts. So if we start at the beginning, we have 2 turbocharger speed codes, we have 3 knock sensor codes, 2 intake manifold pressure codes, 2 EGR codes, and then lastly a turbo actuator abnormal update rate. So if we count all of those up, that gives us 10 active fault codes. Which direction do we go into now? So after doing a quick fault scan, it's obvious that we have some pretty serious problems. I should probably call the customer and let him know that he's looking into some pretty extensive repairs to get all of these problems rectified. We're just going to do a quick one. I know this turbocharger speed code inside and out. It works on a 5-volt reference supply. We're just doing some quick resistance checks here. We have the engine sensor side connector disconnected, and everybody's putting their mark in here. I'm the orange guy. There was a white marker guy and a black marker guy. That's funny. So we're just doing a quick resistance check, and right now, oh no,
My paper fell down. Retrieve that before it blows away. This is a list of all the full codes it's got. And we'll pay close attention to this little scribble down here, pin 81, which I'm currently pinned into. Should be the 5-volt supply. Let's just walk over here quickly. So this right here is the turbo speed sensor. If you follow it back, it goes to this connector right here. And this should be our 5-volt supply to that sensor, which I measured it with a voltmeter and I wasn't getting anything with the key on.
So let's refer to the wiring diagram for this engine. From pin 81 at the sensor connector feeds a 5-volt supply. This 5-volt supply goes to the differential pressure sensor for the EGR, the exhaust gas pressure sensor. It goes to the EGR valve for 5-volt position. It also feeds 5 volts to the intake throttle valve actuator for its position. And lastly, it feeds 5 volts for the turbocharger speed sensor. So running an overlay in this case might be pretty difficult. We might end up having an octopus overlay harness. Pretty much just fabricate a harness in the back of the van and put this thing back together. Well, we seem to have this one figured out. We have a broken wire for a 5-volt supply to that speed sensor. I checked the speed sensor ground and the signal wire back to the ECM, and those tested fine. Let's move on and attack a different code. Let's pick the turbocharger actuator abnormal update rate and see if we have a broken wire causing this code.
So we're gonna take a quick note here. 4 is our supply, 12 volts. Number 1 is return. Pin 3 is can high. Pin 2 is can low. Okay, so now we got the key off and we're going to be checking our terminating resistors. So we're going to probe it. Okay, so we're showing 108. So that might be a red flag, right? Well, just wait a second. This turbocharger actuator actually has a built-in terminating resistor, and we're going to verify that. We're going to install our test leads here. We're in. What do we have? 120 ohms. So that's perfect. Okay, so now we're just going to check for power and ground if they can hold a load. And our test light lit up, which means that our circuit integrity is pretty good. And it looks like our actuator is no good. Let's put this where we can see it. Going on voltage. So we have the key on right now. And there's our 4, which should be our supply. Do the old chin view. Okay. So we have power is our red, black is our ground. And we're showing 12.3 volts, which is good. That's what we'd expect to see. So now we're going to move this over here. And pin 3 should be our can high. 2.5. And pin 2 should be our can low. And that looks good to me. So because we have some CAN communication codes with this actuator, looks like a bad actuator to me. We're gonna get our scope out and measure here just to make sure, but there's still no response from this turbocharger actuator. And they are replaceable. You can't just change the actuator, no big deal. You just need to calibrate it afterwards. So right now we don't have the turbocharger actuator installed or plugged in, I should say, and it's only running on a 120 ohm resistor. I wanted to see if there was still some stuff happening to prove the integrity of the circuit, and it turns out there is. So now we're going to go to the actuator. Plug that in. Okay. Fully seated. Now we should have 60 ohms resistance. With both our terminating resistors installed. And it looks like we have a bad turbocharger actuator.
So now that brings us back to day number 2, where we got the go-ahead to run the overlay, and we got a turbo actuator coming on the way.
Okay, so we got the EGR valve opened up. It's actually a purple wire that supplies 5 volts to determine the position of the valve. And we have our exhaust gas differential pressure sensor here, and you can see it's purple. And I just wanted to point something out. We're looking at these little chafe marks here. Let's zoom into those a little bit more. You can see that the insulation has been chewed away. And this is actually the wire that is not supplying 5 volts to any of the sensors anymore. So I've seen this before. These little chafes actually allow corrosion to start happening on the wires. Runs okay for a bit until it don't no more. So I want to say we're probably going to look at replacing this whole harness soon, because if that's just one of the wires, you're going to find that happening intermittently to pretty much all the sensors on the engine, theoretically. Okay, so we're currently plugged in, and so now we have our octopus harness installed. All our sensors are getting 5 volts again, and I want to say most of our codes are gone. I did it clear and nothing came back. We're still going to go ahead and replace that turbo actuator though, because of the symptoms of last service call. Let's just go have a look. belt. Let's go back over here and see if we have any fault codes. And so far she's happy. No check engine lights. I think we can confirm at least part of this repair. The whole 5 sensors offline thing. So now it's time for that turbo actuator. All right. So we're back after our octopus harness. And what we're gonna do today is we brought some torches for those actuator bolts. We're just gonna see if our fix was any good. Uh-oh, 3 hours.
So they ended up taking the truck away from me yesterday. Now I'm back to do the turbocharger actuator and to confirm if some of these repairs have actually worked.
Just like that. I already got this one loose. Now we're gonna drain coolant. So we got the coolant drained, and now so that we can take this hose off. That should give us just enough room. I went ahead and installed my little pet cock on the coolant pipe so we can drain this next time a lot easier without making a big mess. It's stubborn. There we go. That's a hot socket. Hot, 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 hot. Hot, hot, hot. Hot, hot, hot. Hot, hot, hot. Hot, 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 hot. Hot, hot, hot. Very fucking hot.
So we got this turbocharger actuator installed, calibrated, and it's no longer throwing any turbocharger codes. The only ones that remain are for the outlet knock sensor. So we repeated the exact same tests we did to determine if we had a bad actuator in the same sense on that knock sensor. We had powers and grounds, and our CAN bus was good. So we ordered a new knock sensor. While we wait for it, let's take it out. So we got that knock sensor installed off camera. So but now let's go over all the work that we've done. We have those 5 engine sensors back online. It's good. Took care of a lot of fault codes. We got our turbo actuator installed and calibrated. Got rid of those fault codes. Now the only ones that remained were for the knock sensor, which those are now taken care of as well. Confirmed for this repair, and a good test just to get everything up to snuff is to perform park regeneration. We performed this park regen and everything went smooth and no active fault codes came up during the whole time that we were there. So I'm pretty much positive that if we do have any other codes coming up, it's for something unrelated. Might be a little late for a disclaimer, but I'd like to point out one thing. These videos are for informational purposes only. If you choose to recreate anything you've seen in today's video, you're doing so at your own risk. If you've enjoyed your ride on the Diagnostic train, hit the like button, leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. This is Mitch at Diagnostic North, signing off.